Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jayla Koriyan, and if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Harlan wants to say hey. Say hey, boo boo. Hey, Stinka. Say good morning. So today I'm about to head to the city. I'm going to a women's brunch by Rolling Stone, the magazine. I believe it's called Women Shaping the Future. So I'm about to head out there and call my Uber. I invited one of my new homegirls to come with me there. So we are meeting up there, and it's just gonna be a fun day, you know, kind of in the city at this brunch. So my makeup's done, my hair's done. The only thing is I need to get my jacket. I wish I would have got it dry cleaned before this, but I didn't, so I'm kind of sad about that, but I'll get it dry cleaned after today for sure. So my makeup's done, hair's done, my earrings are in bag. I switched my purse. Spray perfume. Oh, I need my lip. My lip. And then what else do I need? Alright guys, just got into the city, about to go into the event. I'm super excited. Don't know what to expect really from the event, but it's going to be some women on the panel. We're going to be eating, so let's go head inside. The event is so cute in here. They have the floor, the bar. They have an area over here with like little postcards that they're sending for women's empowerment to other females. They have the stage over here, and then we already have our seats selected. So we're just at the bar getting a little drink. Say hey, girly. Hi. And yeah, they have a place where we take pictures and stuff. We're just filling it out. Everybody's just arriving right now. So I'm excited. Can I get a twirl over this way? Ooh, she looks super cute, guys. Thank you. My friend here is about to taste the stuff. What you got to eat?
Hello?
Put it in your mouth.
I'd like to welcome everyone to Rolling Stone's Women Shaping the Future event.
So guys, we're sitting at the front. Now we've got a drink, we got some wine. It's okay. That's a little too far. So we're just waiting. I think I'm gonna try they have today. The butter is really good. You guys said the butter was good. I'm trying to try it too.
I'm Alex Morris. I'm a senior writer at the magazine, and I'm going to be moderating today. We have some conversations planned with some amazing women. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mina Wen.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a great privilege to be here as the president of Planned Parenthood, which is an organization that's meant so much to me growing up. I was a patient of Planned Parenthood, and so was my mother and my little sister, just like 1 in 5 women in America. And Planned Parenthood was there for us at the time that we needed it the most. And I'm so proud to lead this organization that provides life-saving healthcare every single day. I'm an emergency physician, and working in the ER, I see how the reason why someone is sick is not just the illness that they have. They may also be sick because they don't have health insurance, because there are systemic factors like inequities and racism and poverty and other factors in their life that are making them ill too. And so it's our obligation to provide healthcare and at the same time to fight with everything we have to advocate for people to have access to healthcare as a human right and not as a privilege only afforded to some.
Nina Ween just won. I'm a fan now. I support her. Oh yeah, so I'm excited to hear the other women speak about what they're going to be talking about today. think very powerful women are speaking.
It had a little disguise to it. Like, yeah. This one just says like, if you like sushi, you like this. If you like raw, you like this.
I don't like sushi.
Yeah.
Thought you were my only love, but I found someone with the perfect touch, and oh, you can't hold me. I don't wanna waste your time. Got a secret in his mind, oh mine, and oh, you can't hold me. I don't wanna wait around. Stay home, baby, I can hold it down. Oh, you can't hold me. I don't ever look no more. I'm the one that I've been waiting for, and oh, you can't hold me. You can't hold me.
One of my favorite parts of the when I spoke with you before is when I started to ask you about how women from your circumstances aren't supposed to end up in Congress, and you immediately cut me off and were like, yes they are. and so I just want to ask you if you'll talk a little bit about your background.
Okay, I cut you off as I cut everybody off who starts that sentence, because there's this idea of what Congress is supposed to look like, or what people are supposed to do. And people think that I got here in spite of my circumstances, but I remind them that I got here because of my circumstances. Yeah. I know that I'll be an effective congresswoman because I know what it feels like to live in poverty. I know what it feels like to have a mom who's addicted. I know what it feels like to be a single mother. I know what it feels like to not have access to education or to rely on government assistance. I know these things because that is my life and that is my background. So when I go into these rooms and we're having conversations, I am not speaking from a secondhand viewpoint or something that someone has told me. I speak with fidelity to these issues. Last week we had a hearing on higher education, and one of the other members, there was a young woman there, a single mom, and she was in community college, working 3 jobs, and I started in community college, working 3 jobs. I was a high school dropout, went back, did everything I had to do, and he made the comment, she could have gone to a trade school, or perhaps been a welder. And I said, I'm sorry, doesn't she get to go to college if she so chooses? Shouldn't her family have access to the same dreams as someone else's? So I remind people that there's no one way to do this, that everybody's welcome, that there are different ways of being and doing, and that my story and my experience are just as valuable to this narrative as everyone else's.
Yeah.
Woo! First of all, I know that government works. I know what happens when good government works for people. I know what happens when people can rely on government assistance. I am what happens when government works. You know what I mean? And it is unconscionable that we are in a country where people are blamed for their circumstances. So what are some examples? I grew up in public housing. That was government at work. I attended public schools. That was government at work. My family was the beneficiary of government benefits. That was government at work. I went to school, to community college, then on to get a bachelor's and a master's, all at state schools with loans and grants. That was government at work. But then the flip side of it is that now I am a conscientious member of society who is willing to do my part, who is willing to work hard, who is willing to invest in my community. I remember in 2016, there was, the thing happened, and then there was a change in leadership at the Department of Education.
Wait, what?
But I worked really closely with Secretary of Education John King. I loved Barack Obama. And I met this woman, Secretary DeVos, and she said, I want to move government out the way so that parents can make the decision for their children. And in that second, I shrank to a 7-year-old. And I was frozen because what I wanted to say to her was, what about the kids who don't have a parent? What about the kids who come from families who can't advocate for them? Isn't that your job? Isn't that my job to make sure that they too have adequate public education? And I didn't say it. And it haunted me for 2 years because I was so angry in the moment that she said it that I felt invisible, because what she was proposing would have erased me. My district receives 100% free or reduced lunch. I took these kids across the country to help these people who were displaced by fires. And no, not me. This is what my kids do. And I was building a roof, so I was on the roof, and I was like, who will speak for them? Like, these kids, there's this narrative in our country where every man for himself. Don't worry about what's happening to your neighbors. And I have these kids who have nothing, who flew across the country to help someone else. And I ask, who will speak for them? Me. I hate when people say to me that they're discouraged after 2016, or they feel depleted, or they're sad. I want to say, were you not paying attention to what happened in 2018? Like, we had the most amazing people who never thought about running for elected office, who are saying, I have to do something. For the first time in history, we have 105 women in the U.S. Congress. Our priorities have shifted. We just passed. Elections have consequences. And let me tell you what the consequences of having Democrats in the majority is. We just passed H.R. 1 to open up transparency in government and elections, and to move corporate money out of elections. We just passed H.R. 8 and H.R. 1112, which closes universal background check loopholes and the Charleston loopholes, the first time in 20 years that we've had any gun reform legislation. We just put on the floor H.R. 6 for dreamers and undocumented youth. The first time we're addressing that again. We just put on the floor the Equality Act to reopen the civil rights legislation so that we add gender identity and sexual orientation as protected classes. This is what happens when you have people who align with your values and your vision for the future in positions of power and in offices in our government. And I hope that what you feel is optimistic about what is to come. You know, this female majority has changed the narrative. Women's reproductive rights is at the top of the list. Healthcare is at the top of the list, because this is things that are important to the people who are sitting in these seats. So I hope what you feel is optimistic about what is about to happen. Yes. Because if 2018 is any indication of where we're going, put on your seatbelts, because we're here and we're coming.
Alright guys, amazing women have been speaking. We have our brunch going on. This is like organic chicken and something. But I've been loving it. Alright, so we have organic chicken and then codfish.
Great. Here, thank you to Rolling Stone for letting me be here and sing. I'm missing school today, which is cool. And I learned so much whenever I hear these things, and yeah, I don't know, I'm really, really young, so it's really cool to grow up in a generation and world full of leaders, and it's really inspiring for me I want to grow up to be like the leaders I see here today, and that's just really important to me. So thank you for letting me be here. Actually, an Amy Winehouse cover. It's a cover of her that I'm covering. Yeah, and I hope you enjoy it. I go out by myself, and I look across the water, and I think of all the things what you're doing, and in my head I paint a picture. And since I come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over, stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over that way?
I have a new talk show, Tamron Hall. It starts 9/9/19 on ABC here in New York. If you've ever been to the South or New Orleans, they call them shotgun shacks. So basically my shoes are more expensive than any home I ever lived in prior to moving in New York. But it's a shotgun shack, and that means when you open the door, you can see straight through the house, shotgun through the house. And that was my very first home with my pawpaw, as I call him, and my mom, and that's how my life started. You know, my mother would say to me, I'd rather have holes in my clothes so that I can send you to the Catholic school, which at the time was like, you know, a nice charter school that we have now so that I can have the best education. My mom used to say, you can do bad by yourself. She didn't mean be lonely or be without a companion. She meant you can stand on your own 2 feet as a woman. As a black woman, as a woman who doesn't have connections, no legacy, entry in a university, you are who you are. So it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, rich or poor. These legs you have are meant for you to stand on. And so that was the message that I had all my life. This is going to sound strange, but I felt like it was a calling. It was like when people are called to minister. I love being around people. I'm the girlfriend that I want you to call me at 2 a.m. and say, we're gonna go bust his windows up. And I'm gonna talk you off, but I'm gonna be there. I've always enjoyed the company of people. When I'm here, I live in Harlem, I love dinner parties at my house because I just want to chill with my friends and talk. Probably it's 7 or 8 because I love talking. I wanted to know what's your deal? You know, and my nickname was not necessarily, because anytime an adult would tell me something, I'd say, not necessarily. And you know, in the South, that gives you a what? But I kept doing it. So I just naturally wanted to do that. And so this was the only thing that I could be. I didn't have a plan B. This was it. This was riding till the wheels fall off or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
One topic you've covered in a very personal way is the issue of domestic violence, which affects 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men. When did you first realize that your sister was a victim of it?
Well, when I first found out, I had suspected that there was something going on in my sister's life with her significant other, and it had been a pattern where she had become involved in relationships that we knew were beyond unhealthy. They were dangerous, and this particular person she was with at the time, my family knew that it was, we didn't know.
When is the last time you experienced sexism?
I'll start. I think it was, I recently had a meeting again, and these are all, people who had good intentions, but I was in a room of all men.
The most polarizing example is during orientation. You can imagine this incoming class of freshman congresswomen, young, diverse backgrounds. People often addressed us as staff. People directed us the other way. People would, I have a middle-aged white man on my staff, and people would talk to him as if I wasn't in the room.
And it is every day, right? I mean, the other day, one of my colleagues, I won't name, but is a CEO of another healthcare organization, was giving a talk and kept on referring to me as the CEO of a women's health organization. Well, we treat women, we treat men, we treat trans people, we treat all people, but why do we need to specifically qualify that Planned Parenthood is a women's healthcare organization? It is a healthcare organization.
Even you just reminded me of something else. One thing I see all the time. I just had an event yesterday, and there was a staffer, not my staffer, but he was the staffer for a local mayor. And he kept referring to the mayor as the mayor or Mr. Mayor. And then when he turned to me, he called me Johanna. I said, that's Congresswoman to you. And it's all the time.
I'm just so struck by how so many people have told all of us here, this is not your lane, right? Stay in your lane. This is your place. And you all, we all, should I say, have taken exactly the opposite approach to say, actually, you don't tell me where I belong. And it's not your table. Actually, I'm going to be at the head of the table. I'm going to be setting this table. And I wonder how, give us advice to everybody else about how do you do this? How do you say, this that we're talking about is my lane?
Such a great question.
Unapologetically. Yes, that would be my answer, just unapologetically. I think for me, there really was no blueprint for me to look at, because I like I said, I was the first in my state. I'd never seen myself represented. So unless you're willing to go over a cliff and try new things and do things differently than they've been done and not wait for someone else to do it and then accept failure, I was a person who was very transparent about my journey, this circuitous journey that I took, and I owned every part of it, because I realized very early on, if I don't tell my narrative, someone else will create my narrative. And I think more people are like waiting for permission to be their authentic selves. And the one thing I learned when I was national teacher there, I traveled all over the world. I traveled to almost every state, and you have these insecurities and you think you're the only one. I met so many raggedy people. I was like, it's not just me. And you really realize, like, everybody's going through something in a very different way. And if you are, like, what I've decided was, me carrying the shame of not wanting to tell my story was saying to, almost like you said, to a young person or someone looking at me, like, that part of you is not okay. So just unapologetically.
I think that's true. I mean, for me, it was losing my job. I mean, I walk in and I'm on the Today Show, the first black woman, and then it's like, oh, okay, we're here now. Yeah, tomorrow. We got today or tomorrow. But in that moment, I said, I will never let someone determine if I'm going to eat or not. I will figure out a way. I'll set my own table. And I didn't leave bitterly, contrary to what people said. Oh, I didn't storm out of anywhere. But I said, I'm 46 years old at the time. I have to own my space. And trust me, the confidence that I hope that I exude to some degree hasn't always been there. I mean, you're propping yourself up a lot of the times. And there were many days I was propping myself up. But that day, I went home when I prayed, and I was like, you know what? It's done. I will not grovel for a space. I'm going to make a table, and I'm going to invite a diverse group of women to the table, and I will serve up the meal that I know will satisfy. And so when I left the show, I thought, of course, and I'm going viral and all this, and I think I'm going to get a great job. I was getting jobs like people thought I was an intern. I was like, I've been doing this for 30 years. No offense to interns, but I served my time as one. And I'm thinking, wow, is this me being rejected, or is this the universe conspiring to point me in the direction? And I said, this is the universe. I'm not being rejected. I'm being directed. And I think that in your weakest moments, and trust me, I'm having a baby now, I'm married now, at the time, I was my backup plan. I didn't have a backup plan, and I'm thinking, let me use that to my advantage, because if I had the baby back then, or if I had been married, I may have thought about it differently. But I had this window where I could leap. And I tell people, it's not a leap of faith, and it's just a jump. Trust me, I was in a fetal position in pajamas the next day, like, oh my God, I just walked away from the Today. Oh, geez, this is what I'm going to do. But it was like a magic carpet ride. Something that you cannot explain will lift you up at that most difficult time. But I truly believe my advice to any of you, we're all going through something that we're not sharing professionally, personally. And I know we can go in a bunch of our bag of Maya Angelou quotes, make you feel good temporarily. But everything and every time I was rejected professionally, every single time, it was revealed to me why I didn't get it, and I was happy that I did it. Every time, I promise you, I could sit down with you and I will write a list of jobs that I went after, things that I went after, and I did not get them, and I cried, and why me, and all. And it was revealed to me in the clearest form because I got something else. And you have to wait on it. Doesn't always feel good. Going to the ATM machine, and I was like, the fee is more than what I have. But I promise you, everything, every door that was closed in my face, there was another one. There was another one.
Dr. Wen, do you want to answer your question?
Hard to follow. I would just say, don't let others tell you what you're capable of. And I was listening to your story, Congresswoman, and thinking that there have been so many moments too in my life too where I doubted myself and thought, well, there's nobody like me here. And I think in those moments, it's recognizing that even if we don't feel like it at that time, there's somebody else out there looking up to us. And showing up, being there, being bold, being unapologetic, and just being who we are, and standing up for our values. That's our purpose.
Hi, where are you at? Okay, right here? Oh, okay. Boom, my Uber's here.
Let me check and see what mine is at.
So I'll see you later. Tell me what you're doing this weekend, and then Sunday.
Yes, Sunday.
Okay, I'll text you. Okay, I will.
Break it up.